We've heard the word retarded all our lives, and people have the nerve to tell us they're not making fun of us. In Minnesota, we're sick of this term, and we're doing something about it. This all started when a Minneapolis theater group thought it would be funny to use the word retarded in the title of a show.
I have always been a big fan of Brave New Workshop. It's fun political theater, they satire, they make fun of everyone. In April, I got the email announcing the new show, and I saw the title was Rise of the Celebretards, which really hurt me. My daughter, many would consider retarded, a retard. When people use that word, like Brave New Workshop is using it, and they're calling celebrities retards, they're in effect saying, those people are like my daughter, and that's a bad thing. And my daughter's not a bad thing.
People from the Brave New Workshop declined to meet with us to discuss their use of the R word. So we asked their patrons what they thought of the word.
What do you think when you hear the word retard?
Well, it doesn't make me feel very good.
Well, to be honest, like shame or humiliation.
What do you think if someone called you a retard?
I think it's based on self-esteem.
The word's lost a lot of its, I think, original meaning. It's tossed around quite a bit these days.
It feels like they're just degrading people who are born with
Disabilities, yeah.
Right?
Would depend on how it's used.
It's really common with our kids and stuff. For them to, when you're being goofy, to say, "Oh, you're so retarded," but we know that they're not meaning mentally challenged as much as they're just. It's just like when they throw out the word, "Oh, that's so gay." They're not even talking about homosexuality. They're just using a word that.
You can never leave that past meaning behind. You can never completely divorce the use of a particular term, especially a term like the N-word or even a term like retarded, from its cultural history.
I kind of grew up with that word. Nowadays it's a little more politically incorrect, but it didn't bother me.
You were called that?
No, but I mean I didn't know it was a bad word. Never knew it was a bad word until I got older.
I don't let my child say it in
Sure.
a negative way.
Shouldn't be used in a defaming way. Don't know if you couldn't use it any other way, I suppose.
In the beginning, God made us because he was bored. He needed some joy, poetry, and clowns. He gave us as a chromosome to be a very special people. Adorable, cuddly, funny, and a little bit sexy. At the end, the God wasn't bored anymore. Amen.
We use humor to open up the doors of conversation.
We wanted to know what other people thought about using the R word and about other words that hurt people with disabilities. So we held a big meeting to talk about it.
I would like to welcome all of you to this discussion here at Interact Theater to talk about words that offend us in different ways. The first comment or quote is from Caleb McEwen, and it says, "People have the right to be offended, and we have the right to be wrong," he says. "And if we can't use the word retard, does that mean we should not use idiot, moron, or crazy either? Eventually, we can't say anything."
On a scale of 1 to 10, I agree 10, because the suffix tard doesn't necessarily refer to a word like retard that would be used anymore in our society. And those words that were up on the screen, those were words that doctors used even a generation ago. So where are we with what terms we can use and can't use?
I disagree because all my life I've been called a retard, okay? My own mother called me a retard. I'm not a moron. I'm not an idiot. I'm a human being. I have feelings.
Well, give us the right to people to call us dirty names and get away from it. It's wrong. Please stop calling names.
The question before us here is not can they, but should they? to use the N-word as an example, it's still legal to use that word. You shouldn't, but you can.
Somebody can call you whatever they want to. If you decide to be under that term, that's a different story.
I've had one of those gut-wrenching experiences where a stranger, actually teenagers in a truck rolling by, went out the window and yelled "fucking cripple" at the top of their lungs, and that was my defining moment, where by the time I got home, I was sobbing.
They'd be saying, "Oh, you that's a handicap. You're a monkey. You look like an ape. Is your mother retarded?" I just ignore them because that really hurts my feelings.
Don't call names anymore. Don't laugh at me. Don't call me names.
When we use a disrespectful word to define a person, we're giving ourselves permission to be disrespectful toward that person.
I'm a teacher, and we hear, most unfortunately, the word retard every day. When you say, well, this isn't a word that we should be using, and they say, well, why not? Everybody else does. How do we talk to kids about that?
Well, zero tolerance for bullying. If you call a person a retard, whether or not you really mean that they're retarded or whether or not the word is just used without thinking, it's still a word, and I think we wouldn't tolerate a lot of other words.
Empower yourselves, empower your children. Don't hide from them what their issues are. My son has been sitting at the IEP table since he was in 2nd grade. He gets the first 20 minutes of every IEP meeting. And you don't know the impact that makes.
Those of us in the disability community shared a lot of concerns and a lot of pain about offensive language. Next, we had to work on doing something more than just talking about it.
Today we're working with a lot of self-advocates in the disability rights movement to explore ways that they can confront the use of language in our society that is often used to put people down. And particularly we're talking about the R word and retard, which is used ubiquitously throughout society. And we're developing some scenarios that allow people to practice what they can do when they hear degrading terminology in their lives.
The word retarded only reinforces the bad things about disabilities.
One of the forms that we use is called image theater or body sculpture. What do you see in this picture? And it's a frozen picture of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people freezing a moment in time. Who's got power in this situation? And conveying with their faces and with their bodies an image. Our images are often more powerful than our words. The importance of this kind of popular education is it's not just me or any educated person standing up in front of the room and telling people what they should do, but instead the practitioners of this form of theater and education facilitate a situation where the participants are teaching and learning each other, and the facilitator is also learning from the participants. So everybody has a role of teacher, everybody has a role of learner. We're really hopeful that out of today comes some actions that can be taken around the state that are developed by the people here today that creatively, dramatically, theatrically call attention to the use of the R word.
We are also talking about writing some derogatory terms on a piece of paper and then either burning it or shredding it up in a paper shredder in front of the Capitol.
We're going to go in there, and all of those legislators who haven't seen a ruckus are going to see a ruckus today. We're going to get rid of that R word. No more of that R word. No more using negative words about persons with disabilities. We're going to go over there and we're going to shred up that R at the end of the day. We're going to shred up all of those negative words. What are we going to do? Shred! What are we going to do? Shred! Oh man, I can't wait until this afternoon.
So we did it. We shredded the R word. People came from across the state to get rid of the labels we've heard for so long. But what next?